Hello learners, I'm Pradeep Naik, CEO of Fuel India. Welcome you all to another session of an exciting and a wonderful industry, that is event industry. Today we're going to talk about staging of events. But before I talk about staging of events, I'd like to show you a small video which encapsulates the entire elements that I'm going to discuss about staging of events in just 4 minutes. This will be a heads up before we get into the topic, giving you a clear insight about what is staging of events and how different things come together to form one big event. Allow me to show you this video. Well, this one video actually shows, or rather I would say covers all the elements that we're going to discuss under staging of events. So in this video, what did you see? You saw that it's an empty hall. I would rather say it was not a hall. It was a factory, an abandoned factory, an empty abandoned factory converted into such beautiful, mesmerizing event venue. Did you see how like hundreds of people came together? And I'm sure this video, what we've seen, is by Benjamin Townsend Photography. It's a US-based firm, and they did this time-lapse video. In this video, we could see each and every element as a part of staging of the events that we're going to discuss. Everything put together in just a small, short 4.5-minute video. I'd like to thank YouTube and Benjamin Townsend for creating such great video and giving an opportunity for me to show this video to you. So before we go into details, I would like to start with the presentation. As you mentioned, staging events, that's the topic for the day. Now, what do we know? What is staging of events? Well, it's a theatrical concept actually originating from the presentation of plays in theaters. But in an event, when we say staging of events, it is about different things coming together under one roof to provide clients or audience or the public an experience that they never had, they never seen before, or giving them an performance that they could remember or they could cherish, an experience that we can cater to them. So event staging is different elements, could be theming and design, could be catering, could be sound and light, could be props and decor, or could be performers and crews and lights and everything coming together under one roof and then delivering it to enhance the experience of the customer or the audience. So under elements of staging, in the video you would have seen that there are different elements. We started from a bare venue, and then the trussing team comes in, then there is a decor team that comes in. So there are different teams who are working together, and that's when an event can come into life. Or how we bring dreams into reality is when different teams, could be from sound, could be from lighting, could be from staging, fabrication, decor. We also saw the catering team, the food arrangements, everybody coming together to deliver something spectacular which the audience would have witnessed in that event, and similarly in the events that we do. So today, under elements of staging of events, there are eight different elements. So let us quickly just run through the main elements, and then we will go into detail of this. So the first one is theming and event design, which is a part of staging events, venue and site selection, audience and guest seating, stage, the main performance area, power, light, and sound. I would also add a bit of AV and special effects in this, and catering, performance and crew, hospitality, recording the event. Now, before I go ahead and start with discussing each element of this, see, these elements which are mentioned here, they are broad categories. There'll be a little more subcategories, could be like prop and decor, or could be a little more in terms of entertainment and things like that, which will come under a subcategory. But these are the broad categories under staging of events that we'll be looking at. So I will start this, I'll go ahead, or I would start this session with theming and event design. That's our first element that we want to discuss. What is theming and event design? So whatever kind of event that you select, whether it is going to be a wedding, whether it's going to be a conference, whether it is going to be an exhibition, whether it's going to be a birthday party, whether it is going to be a sports event, or any kind of event, the first and foremost thing that you're going to decide is the theming and the styling. It can also be called as styling. The reason being, sometimes we also choose a theme, sometimes we also choose the style, the way the look and feel of the venue or the event is going to be. So the first and foremost thing that we have to decide, or we actually ask the client, is what is that is there in their mind. Sometimes what happens is that a client say, no, I don't know, you suggest what is the most happening, what is the trend at 2020, what is the trend in 2021 or 22. So what is the futuristic trend? There are themes which actually talks about how 2050 might look like. There have been movies made. There could be sci-fi theme, that could be casino theme, that could be Hawaiian theme. Themes, there is endless themes as long as the event managers can be creative. So once you decide on the theme, another important aspect which goes hand in hand, along with theme, is the number of people, which definitely I'll address it at a later stage. But just to give you a heads up on that, saying that not everything like theme cannot be the sole decision making thing. Number of audience also, because if I like a theme, I'll have to see whether it's going to be executable at that. For example, I can't choose a particular theme when I'm catering to an audience of like 80,000, 1 lakh people, right? So theme can be kind of made custom to a lesser number of people. 1 lakh people might, there could be some executional challenges. The look and feel of the event can happen, but if I have to get everybody engaged in the experience, it might be a challenge. However, it is possible to a larger extent. For example, for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, it is possible, and it also depends upon the duration of the event. So the first and foremost thing is deciding the styling, the style of the event, or the theming of the event, or the event design. So how the look and feel of the event is going to be, and how it has to be designed. There could be something which is there. When you search for Google, you'll find hundreds of themes that is available. But the true designers or the conceptualizer of event company, or the event managers, they are the people who come. There are people who come up with some out of the box ideas, some original concept driven ideas, or could be some themes or something which would actually relate to the client. So mostly it happens in weddings. It actually depicts the personality of the bride or the groom, or the family that they belong to, or if they are a family which has a 100 to 150 years of traditions to showcase, then they look at some historical theme. So it all depends. In birthday parties, it could be that your like their son or their daughter might be a fan of Beam, or it could be a fan of Avengers, or it could be a fan of fairy tales or Tailspin, anything. The theme will be decided as per their interest, and it will be custom designed for them. So this is more about theme and event design. So I'll just show you a small slide with some photographs, which will give you a clear picture about what we're talking about. The first image that you see is a PY festival of the 2017 that happened. If you see the theme, it is kind of inspired from the botanical gardens of Singapore, and it is executed there. So probably the organizers would have seen something of that scale, magnanimous scale there, and they wanted to bring this. And also it works like an ambience and the decor element. Yes, so that was the style and theme that they followed for that year 2017. The second image just below that you see is a casino theme. It's a reception party, and the theme is casino because probably the bride and the groom wanted. Probably they did this in Las Vegas. They wanted to show that casino as a theme. So this is how the decor and everything will automatically make you think on those lines, and the entire decor depicts that it's a casino theme. The third one is also a reception. It's a Winterland theme. So if you see the trees and the twigs that have been used, the candles, the flooring color white, the flowers that have been used, the chairs, everything is white. It's like a snow-filled, a reception area. Again, as the name goes, the Winterland theme is what has been. So there is no limitations on how much event manager can think to what limit, as long as your operation or the production team have the capability or have the bandwidth to execute it. So there is no end to it. Now let's go to the second element of staging of events: venue and site selection. Yes, we meet the client, we take the brief, or we conceptualize some event. We come up with a theme. Oh, this is how it's going to be. It's going to be a carnival theme. It's going to be a circus theme and everything. But as I told you, few things that we have to consider while making a decision is also the number of people. So if I'm doing a public event, I'm expecting thousands of people to attend. So venue, or it could be even hundreds also. So venue and site selection also plays a very, very important role, because your venue should allow you to do such, out of the box, should be able to accommodate your out of the box ideas. It can be that you have a great theme, but the venue is not allowing you to do that. Could be due to permission, or could be due to structural issues, or could be limited structure that you have, could be a problem with the ceiling. So the finalization of venue will also define the theme, or if the theme is already decided, then you look for a venue that will suit your theme. But in case you don't get, then you will have to custom build it. Well, there are people who custom build the entire city, who custom build the entire, I've seen weddings where they've created the entire Greece, they've created Spain, they've actually created artificial river, they've created boat. So there is no end to it. As long as you have that money power to pump in the amount of money, then there is no problem in terms of the event managers or the conceptualizers running their brains and creating such great setups and great themes. So venue and site selection. So what happens is that there are ready-made venues. It could be, I mean, venues can be anything. It could be sports stadiums, it could be theaters, it could be golf courses, it could be schools, it could be associations, swimming pools, of course, museums, malls, and historical venues like the Parliament House, or just outside, I'm not saying inside the Parliament House, outside the Parliament House, palaces, or temples. And there are many such places, including there has been a trend now where people are also looking at ruins. There could be old factories which is closed down. There could be buildings which is completely demolished, but the few site remains are there. So people like such rustic venues, for launch and everything. They use such venues. And again, as I told, it also is left to the imagination or the level of design thinking the conceptualizer or the designer or the event manager does, that they can execute in such venues. So in terms of venue and site selection, I would say that either take a venue which is already ready and think your theme around it, or if you have a theme and there is no venue that fits, then if you have good budget, then make sure you find an empty ground and construct completely there. There has been instances, I would not suggest one or just handful of, there has been many such instances that where they create everything from scratch. They're just taken a playing ground, and there are chances that sometimes you don't even get a leveled places. Just to cite an example, Sunburn in the year 2018, I guess, 2018 or 17 happened. Sunburn usually happens in Goa, and they had to shift the venue to Pune, and they did it on top of a hill, which was hardly used by anybody. They actually kind of widened the road, created a pathway for people to go up to the hill, and the hill was leveled to an extent on top because it has to accommodate around 35 to 40,000 people, and then an amazing setup was put there. But yes, it took months and months of hard work, labor, planning, designing, etc. But yes, things can be customized based on the money power you are ready to invest and the kind of permissions that you can get. Here are the small examples. So the first image that you see is an empty hall. The image just below that, you see how that same empty hall is converted to a beautiful venue for reception. On the right hand side, you see on the below at the bottom of the image, you see there is a hall which is empty, and on top you see the same hall which is converted into a reception venue with beautiful tables. There are center decor in the table. The pillars have been draped. A lot of lightings that have been used, and how a plain yellow, a plain vanilla venue has been converted to such beautiful decor led event. So this is what event managers can do. This is what the level of concept that they can adapt and they can execute, provided you have that imagination to create something of that level, or provided you have an operation team and production team to back it up with such level of imagination. With this, we go to the third element. Before I go to, I'm really sorry, before I go to the third element, I would also like to show you these two pictures. So in terms of venue and site selection, here on the left-hand side, the first image that you see is a small reception or a wedding thing setup that has happened at a golf course. I mean, we're thinking, who will do a wedding or reception at a golf course? But look at that view, look at that sunset, and the reflection on the pond there. This is such a beautiful venue. As long as you have permissions in place, look at the setup. It looks beautiful. It's very simple and minimalistic, but still very classy. On the right-hand side, you see a setup that is done on lake. So it is a floating, a flooring that they create, and on top of that they build a stage. So it's a floating stage actually, a floating stage, an event that is happening on a floating stage. So as I told you, again, I'm sure you might be thinking, why am I repeating it so times? As I told, it is your imagination or the limit of imagination that you can do. As long as there are permissions in place and the imaginations that you can build, you can do anything. And yes, your production team should be able to support it. There have been instances where people have done there have been stages that is hanging from the helicopter. There has been events that has been done on cruise. There has been mandaps that have been done on cruise. Floating stages of this stature has been done many times. A lot of lakes when Rajasthan and everything, they have been used like that, and many such beautiful musical events have been done. So as long as you have permissions and as long as you have the capacity to execute it, there is no limit. So any venue or any site can be converted to an event location, provided there is enough support or capacity to or bandwidth to execute such events. Now let us talk about audience and guest seating. So once we decide is the theme and event designing, and then we decide the venue, and we also decide the number of people. So now there are ready venues, banquet halls are ready venues, auditoriums are ready venues, or hotels, banquet spaces in hotels, or it could be convention centers, or it could be community halls. So now audience seating will define the kind of event that you're going to do and the number of people that you want to invite. So before I get into details of what kind of event, what kind of seating, broadly the seating system is divided into three categories: classroom, theater, and banquet, or called as cluster also. So different hotels or different industries use different terminologies. Banquet is also known as cluster seating. So now mostly conferences, conferences or summits or conventions or those kind of events, they would prefer a theater seating. Now, just to differentiate, or rather, I would say not differentiate, but I would say to identify who are the VIPs, the first row is converted into cluster, and the rest of the rows might be theater, or it could be entire cluster, or it could be entire theater. But mostly conferences, what happens is that if there is a banquet hall which is around 6,000 square feet, which can take up to around 400 seating in theater, what they do is that if I do it completely cluster, because of the table, which is around 6 feet to 8 feet dia, it will take a lot of space. So instead of 400 seating, you'll be able to accommodate only 150 to 160 guests. So that'll eat up. So it depends. If you have only 150 to 60 guests, 150 to 160 guests, and it's a 6,000 square feet hall, then go ahead, do cluster seating. It will have a little more appealing look. But at the same time, you're saying, no, that's the amount of space that I have, but I have 300 plus guests, then yes, go ahead, make it completely theater. So theater, as you see, as the name goes also, it is how the theater seating is done, one after the other, kept so as per the eye level of the person who's going to sit, and so that the visibility level is not blocked. What is classroom setup? Classroom setup, if you see the image here, it is as good as like we have chairs, and then there is a table right opposite each set of chairs. So classroom setup is usually kind of done for workshops, or if there is any training sessions that happen where there is a need of person doing some kind of a laptop work, or writing, drawing, painting, any kind of work that is done, and that person needs a support. Could be a table. So mostly done for workshops, training purposes, or seminars, and mostly done in hotels. Rest what we see is the boardroom or the U shape. This is mostly done for discussion or a board meeting, as the name goes. And these are normally readily available at different five-star properties or different star or hotels. It's readily available. So these are the main types of seating. So what you have to do is, one is, once you finalize the location, you have to look at the number of guests. Based on the number of guests, then you have to decide whether the theater seating is going to suit or a cluster seating. Now, also it depends on the type of event. If it's a high profile event, you will have to do entire thing as cluster. Or it could be weddings in an open ground or an open lawn, where normally they do cluster seating, so that people can bring their food, they can sit together, they can have. And also this cluster seatings give you an option, or give an opportunity to create a center table arrangement also, which adds an element of prop in the wedding decor and design. So there are different aspects. So before you finalize, but mostly the most important factor aspect is that the number of people that can be accommodated than the type of event. So once the type of event is defined, whether it's going to be conference or anything, then they can decide theater or cluster. Once that is decided, what they can do is that, in case they see that out of 350, 400 people, there are around 30 people who are VIPs or VVIPs, or it could be ministry or somebody who's coming, then they can do a little bit of barricading and use the first row, remove the entire theater of the first row or the second row, and convert them into cluster. So that's how they can help in terms of barricading or differentiating amongst the seating, so that VIP seating is done separately and the rest is done separately. So these are the images. I'm sure you can go look up on Google or YouTube, where you can get different images and different formats. Yes, they're known in different names. As I told, banquet is also known as cluster seating, theater, classroom. These are the names that we commonly use in our industry. The first image that you see is a boardroom seating. The image below that, what you see is a classroom setup. If you see, it's a typical classroom setup and mostly used for training and workshops. On top of this first image that you see on the right hand side is a theater setup, where the chairs are placed right behind each other with a good 2.5 3 feet gap, so that each person can pass through it, and 2 aisle space have been done, so that there could be good movement of guests according to their rows. And the last image that you see, fourth one, is the cluster seating. So normally this cluster seatings can be done if there is a all the tables are facing the stage. Then there will be like it will be done in a U shape of each cluster that are around 6 feet to 8 feet diameter. That are the tables commonly available in the hotel industry. With this, I'll go to the next element, that is a very important element, the stage. So in the event management, the stage actually covers a broader aspect. For example, the design and decoration that we do across the venue, whether it's going to be at the entrance and everything, it will all complement to what is there on the stage. And the stage will have a little more decor or a little more appealing than the rest of the things, so that it would attract all the audience and their attention to the stage. So the stage shall always stand out than the entire decor. The reason being, it's a human tendency that if something is more appealing or looking more appealing on the other side, we tend to look there. So if the stage is not as appealing as your decor around, then what will happen automatically, people's attention will move to the stage when so many important things might be happening. Could be a wedding, could be a conference, or anything that is happening. So mostly what they do is they keep the stage dynamic just to capture the attention, or they keep the content around the stage, things like that. So stage becomes a main performing or the showcase area. The entire appeal of a stage is amplified by using different truss, LED walls, or it could be using LED stages, or it could be used different kinds of lightings and trussing, or it will be the kind of the way the seat arrangements have been done on the stage for panel discussion. So different aspects or different elements of decor and prop that is used to amplify the look and feel of the stage, which is the central part of the entire event that is going to happen. Here are some of the images that you see. The first one is of a wedding reception. The second one is of a Filmfare Award that is happening. The third one is the Oscar, and the fourth one is of a rock show concert that's happening at a badminton court. Now, here in these images, if you see, the entire stage is completely lit, whether it is with LED wall or the background. In Oscar, they in fact used lakhs of one of the edition, I think 2018 edition of Oscar, they used Swarovski to create the entire backdrop. Swarovski is like expensive, and they create the entire backdrop. That means like thousands of pieces of Swarovski was used to create the backdrop, because the only thing that was standing out was the stage there and the stars who were standing right in front of the stage. So that's why the stage forms a very important and the most central part of the event, to capture the attention of the people, to encapsulate them in the entire context in the event that is happening around. With this, guys, I come to an end of this session on staging of events. I will go into details in terms of going to other aspects of staging of events, other elements of staging of events, about catering, could be about sound, light, and performance, and crew, recording the event, and all this, which will take up once I'll start the second session in my next video. In regards with the topics that I've discussed today, that is, first one is theming and event design. The second one is venue and event selection that we do, and the audience guests that we have done, and also the last point that we discussed is in regards with the stage. So you can look up on Google about different types of stages that you can kind of get inspired. Also, in terms of venue and site selection, I would like to put some light on things like events that happen at stadium, or it could be at some open ground or some concert. So look at for some time-lapse videos, or look at for after and before kind of photographs on Google or YouTube. So you will get a clear insight as how a venue or a theme or a design and all these things come together in forming staging of events. So I shall discuss the rest of the elements of staging of events in my next video. In case you have any such doubts, please feel free to write to me. Thank you all for listening to me.